Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Ulfa Satika and welcome to EDSA's webinar academic presentation 2022. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to the participants that already joined our webinar. It's such an honor for me to be here. And also to our amazing, spectacular presenters who already prepared their best to share their insights with us today. So, the theme of our webinar is English for All, Some Ways to Develop. Isn't it so interesting, right? But before we get started, I would like to read the regulation for EDSA's webinar 2022. First, this webinar will last for 1.5 hours. Second, the only language used to communicate is English. Third, all participants are suggested to take notes during the presentation. Fourth, all participants must turn off the audio during the presentation. Fifth, the presentation will be held in 5 to 7 minutes for each presenter. Sixth, the moderator will set the time to remind the presenter. Seventh, a Q&A session will come after the whole presentation. Questions can be typed in the chat box since the other presentation, and anyone interested in talking directly to the presenters is pleased to raise your hand. We will facilitate you if you still have time. And last but not least, if you cannot get your answer, the presenters will send the answer via email. All right, so for today's webinar, we'll have 7 interesting topics that will be delivered by 7 amazing presenters. Somehow I can sense the excitement from both the participants and presenters through my laptop screen. So without further ado, I would now like to introduce our first presenter, Kak Hadi Hadiatullah, Simple Step for Improving Listening Comprehension for Senior High School Students. Hello, Kak Hadi, are you there?
Hello, Ulfa.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes. Wait for a moment, please.
Yes. All right, thank you, Ulfa. So let's start. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. How are you? How's life? I hope we and all of us in good condition today and further. Thanks for the moderator for giving me a great opportunity to deliver a share and all of you the material titled Simple Step for Improving Listening Comprehension for Senior High School Students. And thanks for all participants who have attended this meeting. And special thanks to Mrs. Arini, who the lecturer of the academic listening and speaking, and all the prayers goes to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, the conqueror of the world. My name is Hadi Hadiatullah with NPM 2021-22-079. We'll share with all of you simple step for improving listening comprehension for senior high school students. But before I start my presentation, I would like to use a quote from Jay Walker. A good speaker will always be a good listener. What? Because listener is a never-ending story, because every time we speak, we listen until we pass away and until we lost our sense of listening. Next slide, please. So I divide my presentation into 3 parts of presentation. The first one is what is listening comprehension. The second one is common problem in improving listening comprehension in Indonesia. And for the third, is there any simple solution in improving listening comprehension? Next slide, please. So before I start my presentation, I want to ask with all of you, what is listening? Listening can be anything. Listening to audio, listening to music, listening to someone else, and real listening can be anything. So what is listening comprehension? According to Lampaya Law 2018, listening is an activity to retain information and will more likely to respond about something what they have listened, and they will more like to get a product and made a product about something what they have listened, such as in spoken or in written scripts. And for the next, why senior high school student is important in improving listening comprehension? Because they are in crucial period. Why? Because their brain starts working more wide and more think critically, so that they need to gain a responsible output and gain more comprehensible input. And the student with high listening comprehension will more like to get a creativity. In example, the teacher talk about managing time. The students with great listening comprehension will more like to personalize and what might comfortable for them. So student with listening comprehension will gain more creativity rather than do the students with don't have listening comprehension. Next slide, please. So let's go to the next topic. Is there any problem in improving listening comprehension in Indonesia? Of course it is. Indonesia is a big country as a community, as a territory. What is the problem? The first one is lack of motivation. Although the listening is the four main skills in English besides speaking, reading, and writing, listening is the less interest for the students. And the second one is arrangement of facility. Many schools in Indonesia didn't have facility to support listening comprehension session. And the third is the technique and ability from the teacher. The way of teacher solve the second problem is still a big problem. And the way teacher deliver a material is to listening comprehension is also still a problem. Next topic, next slide, please. Let's go to the next topic. Is there any solution who can be made in improving listening comprehension for senior high school students? Yes, it is. The first one is choose an interesting topic. In example, if they're hot young blood, senior high school students will more interest in sport, romance, etc. So that, in example, I want to use a Romeo and Juliet story because I believe they have heard the story of Romeo and Juliet and they get more interest and engage more in listening the audio. And the second one is shut out the distraction. Listening is a more should focus session, so shut out the distraction is should be made. And for the third, get us done research. You can use a headphone or headset to gain more comprehensible input and make them student focused. And the fourth, practice for register. Act on a manner when we study, especially in listening comprehension, it should be because it impact the result of the students. And the fifth, listening session. We can divide the listening session into three parts. The first listening is focus and big picture. In reading, we know about skimming. Just like skimming, we get the main idea of the audio. We don't need to fill in smaller details. And for the next session is fill in smaller details. We can focus on small details and comprehend the audio to make a comprehend audio itself. And for the third is proper listening. When we are enough and don't need to listen again, that is proper listening. Next slide, please. So let me conclude the material. Listening is an activity to retain information and get more comprehensible input and make a product of the what about something what we have heard. There are some common problems in developing student listening comprehension, such as lack of motivation, engagement of facility, and technique and ability for the teacher itself in listening comprehension session. And for the third, the key point is focused on interesting search for senior high school students, such as use interesting topics such as sport, romance, and make study for the students' vocation. And as a closing statement, I would like to use the quote from Bernard Baruch. Most of the success people I've known are the ones who do more listening than talking because listening gain more a lot of comprehensible input and listening is a never-ending story. So that we listen when we pass away, we stop listening when we pass away, and when we lost our listening sense. So next slide, please. Thank you. And if you have a question, you can write in the chat box, or you can send me an email to 2021-22079 at student.uncel.ac.id if you have a question. And thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I hope this presentation session will be a listening comprehension for you. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I return back to the moderator.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the excellent presentation, Kahadi. And as a reminder, for the participant, if you have a question, please type your questions into the chat box. And now I would like to introduce our next presenter, Kachandra Girandani, helping elementary school students to read English. Hello, Kachandra, are you ready?
Hello, Ulfa.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes. Please wait for a moment.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, everyone. Let's introduce myself. My name is Chandra Giramdani. My student's number is 202-122-066. Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity. First of all, I want to say thank you to Almighty God Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us health so that we can gather in this webinar. Secondly, I want to say thank you to the Honorable Miss Arini as an academic listening and speaking lecturer who has trusted me to present at this event. Here, I will convey material about helping elementary school students to read English. In reading, of course, children at an early age have problems that make them difficult. So what are the difficulties? Let's see. Next slide, please. The factors that cause reading difficulties experienced by every child can be caused by internal factors in the child himself or external factors outside the child. Internal factors in children include physical, intellectual, and physiological factors. The external factors outside the child include the family and school environment, according to Farida Rahim, 2006. We can take some example for the internal factor. The first is students can do decoding. Other students have difficulty in distinguishing the letters that the shape is similar to the letter B with D, the letter P with key, the letter M with W, and so on. And the second is skipping small words. Skipping small words is actually a very common problem that we usually notice when our children are reading aloud. But the truth is that many adults skip words as well. Interestingly, the most commonly skipped words are small, high frequency words such as the, in, on, and off. And for the external factors, for the first is, next slide, please. Okay, for the external factors, for the first is school environment. It's not uncommon for children to prefer playing with their peers at school rather than doing reading activities, because at the age, children will do activities that make their hearts happy and don't like to do boring activities. The second is the lack of parental supervision. Here, the role of parents is very important when the child is already in the home environment, because the activities carried out by the child are full responsibility of parents. Not infrequently, parents are more concerned with work than accompanying their own children's activities. Next slide, please. So how we help the struggle readers? Although most children learn to read during early elementary school through a variety of effective reading instructional programs delivered by the classroom teacher, some children do not seem to profit from regular classroom instruction in reading. And For the first step, we can rereading for fluency. The teacher asks the student to reread selection that they has read at least the previous day for the purpose of developing reading fluency. For example, asking the child where to start reading and identifying initial sounds in words can be a way to help a beginners be successful. Even when they have extremely limited alphabetic knowledge. And second, we can direct the children to repeat what they have read in order to practice their fluency and usually use the storybook. And second, next slide, please. And the second is word work. Word work is an essential piece of the school day. It can be practiced during daily 5, literacy centers, spelling practice, or whole group lessons. Word work can be even done for a distant learning option. Word work is the practice of working with words in some capacity. Word work is important because it helps students develop into better readers, spellers, and writers. For example, we can try to use pyramid spelling. For this activity, the student layers the letters in the word like a pyramid. It's a fun and simple way to practice words. And second, we can use rainbow spelling. We can grab a handful of markers, and rainbow spelling can be a great work activity. Simple, choose a word and then layer the colors red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Then repeat with the next word. According to Miss Linda Farrell, the last step is practice the step and reduce the problem to mastery. The reason student isn't learning is because they have learned something to mastery. Next slides, please. We can conclude that in the reading process, there will also be difficulties for the reader as well as internal and external influences. However, it can be a book if we do a lot of practice until we can master it. Someone say practice makes perfect. Next slide. That's all from me. I'm sorry if there are any mistake. Thank you very much. Back to the moderator. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for the presentation, Cassandra. And there are some strategies to help elementary school students to read English, right? And as a reminder, if you have questions, please type your question into the chat box. And now I would like to introduce our next presenter, Alfie Shahyamza, how to integrate games in the classroom to learn vocabulary for young students. Hello, Alfie, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Great, then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes, please. Wait for a moment.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for Miss Arnie and the other for attending today's webinar. Good morning, everyone. My name is Officer Hamza. Today, I'd like to bring you a topic about how to integrate social games in the classroom to learn vocabulary for young students. But first, why I choose social game to learn vocabulary. Next. Next. It's because of the COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to a dramatic loss of human life worldwide and brings the challenge to a public health, food system, the world of work, and obviously education. For over 3 years, we are staying in our home without socializing. And that's why we need to do more socializing when this pandemic ended. Socializing through social game is very fitting way to the student after not being able to meet with their friend for a really long time. Next. According to Ellen in 1983, games are important in teaching vocabulary because they highlight the necessary and important words to achieve the objective of the game. Huyen in 2003 and Uberman in 1998 agreed that games create a fun and relaxed atmosphere where young learners could learn fast and retain words better. Fernan in 2009 also argued that games are an effective tool to teach vocabulary to young learners. Children participate and pay more attention because they enjoy themselves and the classroom and feel better during and after the game. Repetition will be less boring and fun for children to which consolidates their learning of the new word. Next. There are two things that must be kept in mind by a teacher when implementing games to teach vocabulary to students. First, grouping the students. Sitting the student together encourages cooperation, but this does not mean that they have to be in a group all the time while they are working. Pillich in 1993 notes that having a group of more than 5 students will result in counterproductivity where chaos might emerge. Teacher could ask their student to count 1 until 2 in a sequence manner, and student with the same number will gather in the same group on the floor. And the next is giving explanation and instruction about the game. Teacher have an integral part in the classroom when implementing games because they have to give clear explanation and instruction about them so that the students understand how to play and practice the list of vocabularies intended to be learned. If the teacher did not explain the rules and instructions of the game, choosing social games as a method to explain vocabulary to young learner will be waste of time. There will be no outcomes if the student did not know what to do and they will get bored very fast. Next. So, what games are we going to play? Next. The first game is called Hot Potatoes. The class is divided into two groups, A and B, with both teams sitting on the opposite side of the classroom. Two chair will be placed in the middle of the class so that whoever sits on the chair will face her team or his team, and the board must be behind them. Then the teacher will write a word on the board, but the student on the chair will not be able to see it. Each team will have 1 minute after signaling the beginning of the game. The other students are allowed to use verbs so that their seated teammate can guess the word written on the board. They should not say the exact word written on the board. Next. Memory Challenge is another game that could be used to teach vocabulary to young learners. Students have to sit in pair or form a small group. Each group is given 3 minutes to write down as many words as possible and as they can remember from their previous lesson. The group that recall most of the word will win the game. Next. The third game is Last One Standing, where a topic is given to the student. They have to stand up in the circle and the teacher will count to 3 and give out the topic. After that, the first student in the circle will have to give a word related to the topic and so on. The student who cannot say a new word or repeat the word of the last student has to take a seat, and the last student standing will be declared as the winner. Next. So let me conclude my point about today's topic. Because of the COVID-19, we need to back to the normal pace as soon as possible. And social games are one of the ways to teach vocabulary and socializing at the same time. And keep in mind, besides the three games before, there are many social games that can be used for teaching vocabulary, and there should be a balance between the type of game, number of vocabulary, time, effort, and the use of the student native language. And I give a suggestion to remember. Even though social games are very popular among young learners, they should not be overused. Any games can be effective when it is used suitably for the topic and is controlled by wise and skilled teacher. Until next time, it's been Alfie presenting my topic. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any question, let me know in the chat box. Now, let's just back to the moderator.
One excellent presentation, Kalfi. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on how to utilize games to improve young students' vocabulary size. Okay, and now I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Fahid Firzatullah, the importance of learning vocabulary for junior high school students. Hello, Kak Fahid, are you there?
Yes.
This room is yours for the next 7 minutes, please. Wait for a moment.
Is my voice clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, moderator, to give this opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fahid Firzatullah with my ID number 2021-2261. How are you, friends? Hopefully, we always give healthy from God so we can carry out our activities. Then I want to say and feel grateful to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who given His blessing and His grace so we can get it right now. And I would like to say thanks to all of my friends who have attended this meeting. And in this occasion, I will bring my topic about importance of learning vocabulary for senior high school students with them English for all Samois people. In this core point, there are four main parts. The first is what is vocabulary. The second is four learning strengths by nation. And then the third one is it important? Is it important vocabulary? And the fourth is and how to overcome. Without any further ado, let's begin. Next slide, please. What is vocabulary? According to Merriam-Webster, vocabulary is a list or collection of words and phrases, usually alphabetically arranged and explained or defined. Newman and Dwyer, 2009, said, vocabulary is words we must know to communicate effectively. Words in speaking, expressive vocabulary, and words in listening, receptive vocabulary. So, what is receptive vocabulary? Refers to all the words that can be understood by a person, including spoken, written, or manually signed words. In contrast, expressive vocabulary refers to words that a person can express or produce, for example, by speaking or writing. And Hornby, 1995, defines vocabulary as the total number of words in a language Vocabulary is a list of words with their meaning. Next slide, please. When we talk about vocabulary, it is related to learning. In this slide, I will briefly preview about four learning strengths by nation. The first one is meaning focused input. The second one is meaning focused output. The third one, language focused learning. And the last one, fluency development. Meaning focused input is learning through listening and reading. Meaning focused output is learning through speaking and writing. After you do listening and reading, you have to make some output, i.e. speaking and writing. The third one is language focused learning. Focus is in one learning method. Exam from social media, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. The last is fluency development to development and practical. This trend is to improve and evaluate your fluency. The next slide, please. Previously, we talked about for learning strengths. When we do that mentally simple or strengths, we can maximize vocabulary learning. Is to increase the number of engagement of learners with lexical items. According to Norbert Smith, 2008. So, what is lexical item? Is a single word, a part of word, or a chain of words that forms the basic elements of language lexicon. Vocabulary in the scientific sense is lexicon, and in generally sense is vocabulary. It had same meaning between lexicon and vocabulary. uh, is it important? Is it vocabulary important? Researchers say such as Lover, Nation, Maximum, Reid, Gu, Marian, and Nation, and the other researchers have realized that the acquisition of uh, vocabulary is essential for successful second language use and plays an important role in the formation of complete spoken and written text. And also, Nation 2011 said, in English as a second language and English as a foreign language, learning vocabulary items plays a vital role in all language skills, i.e. listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Next slide, please. How to overcome? Researchers said most frequently question asked is how to improve your English vocabulary. By expanding your knowledge and vocabulary, you can communicate more clearly. Plus, learning a new word is a fun activity because it can be done with the people around you. For that, I will share some ways to overcome, and you can practice by yourself. Uh, the first is read, the second is use dictionaries and encyclopedia. The third is learn 5 words every day. The fourth is create your own dictionary. And fifth, use game. And the last one is engage in conversation. In read, it is obviously reading is one of the effective ways to improve skills. So you have to often to read. The second one, you can use that searches to increase vocabulary effectively. The third is learn 5 words every day. After reading and understanding the meaning of a word, you should be able to memorize 5 words a day. It looks like small thing, but when it's done consistently, it has a good impact. The fourth is create your own dictionary. After you feeling have a lot of vocabulary, Then you can write it down in a book or your personal diary. The fifth is use games such as crossword puzzles, word guessing, or other word games to add more your word or remember a word. The sixth is the last one is engage in conversation. After you feel enough for knowledge, then you can uh, make an output. You can practice the speaking. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's a normal thing. Next slide, please. The conclusion is vocabulary is a word that we must know to communicate effectively. It is also important because it is a vital item in language skill, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. To maximize vocabulary increase, you can learn, use the four strengths method and do the easy tips. And after you use this method, I mean, you can uh, read the read this method can by reading books, watching movies, listen to your favorite song. And I will give quotes from Latin. It sounds like sic parvis magna. It means greetings from small things. That's enough from me. Hopefully, my material can add more insight and knowledge. And I'm sorry for if I made a mistake. Thank you to attend this meeting. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to the moderator, please.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Kak Fahad, for sharing your insights on the importance of vocabulary learning, especially for junior high school students. Okay, as a reminder, if you have questions, please type your questions into the chat box. And now we'd like to introduce to you our next presenter, Kak Muhammad Fajar Ramdhani, expanding students' vocabulary through assisted repeated reading. Hello, Kak Muhammad Fajar, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Then this room is yours for the next 7 minutes, please. Wait for a moment.
All right. Thank you, moderator, for giving me the opportunity. Uh, Dear colleges, thank you for coming to this session, and I hope you have a good day. Let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Fajar Ramdhani, and my topic today is about expanding students' vocabulary through assisted repeated reading. Next slide, please. So there are three main points that I will explain, namely the forms of repeated reading, why should we use repeated reading, and how the method is done. Next slide, please. According to Webb and Chang, there are two forms of repeated reading, namely unassisted and assisted. Unassisted repeated reading is a method of reading that is repeated in order to comprehend the text, whether it is read aloud or silently without any assistance. Whereas assisted repeated reading involves the use of audio readings of the same text, either directly by the teacher or recorded versions during repeated reading activities. Next slide, please. Why should we use repeated reading? There are three reasons, according to the researchers, related to the use of repeated reading. The first reason is participants showed limitations in reading fluency progress when using the unassisted method over a 5 to 9 week period. However, in the assisted condition, participants' reading fluency improved and progressed to more difficult text. Survey data from the participants, their parents, and their teachers also indicated that the presence of the audio support led to increased confidence and motivation to read. The second reason is and allow them to evaluate comprehension. One reason why comprehension may Hello, can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can hear your voice. Please continue.
Okay. All right. The third reason is both assisted and unassisted repeated reading is effective in increasing reading rate, word recognition, and comprehension. One reason why comprehension may increase is that for beginner readers, a single reading of a story may not be sufficient for precise comprehension. This is supported by the research indicating that reading the same text twice leads to greater retention of information found in a text than in a single reading. Next slide, please. All right, so how is the method done? Based on the research done by Webb and Chang, there are 5 steps to do this method. The first step is the participants were assigned to 2 different reading conditions, which is assisted repeated reading and unassisted repeated reading. The second step is the 2 groups were required to read and listen to 2 stories during an EFL class each week over 2 7-week periods. The third step is the assisted repeated reading group was provided with an MP3 recording of the stories in addition to the text, while the unassisted repeated reading group was given the stories but no oral renditions of the text. The fourth step is in both conditions, participants were instructed to either read and listen to each text a minimum of 2 times. The fifth step is the students were told that the aim of the reading conditions was comprehension. So they should focus on reading, on understanding and enjoying the content of the stories rather than on learning any specific grammatical structures or vocabulary. Participants were allowed to use a dictionary, ask questions, or discuss the content with each other. Next. I'm sorry, wait, I'll get. Okay, from this method, the researcher found that both assisted and unassisted repeated reading helped beginner readers know the new vocabulary, but the benefits provided by assisted repeated reading is much greater than unassisted repeated reading. According to the researcher, with audio assistance, information becomes more meaningful and easier to reach. Reading and listening at the same time also help participants to remember more easily so that vocabulary learning can occur. Next slide, please. In conclusion, both assisted and unassisted repeated reading can help students to learn vocabulary. However, assisted repeated reading has a greater effect because it can provide more meaningful information and better understanding than unassisted repeated reading. I hope that in the future there will be many language teachers who apply this method in their classes because this method can help students to more easily remember the new vocabulary they've encountered and yet motivate them to read more often. Thank you. That's all from me. I'll give it back to the moderator.
Thank you so much. Facts on what is repeated reading and how it can improve students' vocabulary. And now I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Kahusni Bustin Hasan Eng, Managing High School Students Insights in Public Speaking. Hello, Kahusni. Are you ready?
Hello. Voice?
Yes, it's clear.
All right.
It's yours for the next 7 minutes, please. Wait for a moment.
Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. First of all, thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala who has been giving us His mercy and blessing until we can meet together in this webinar. Secondly, my salawat and salam be with our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has brought us from darkness into the lightness. The third, I'd like to thanks to the Honorable Miss Arini Hidayati as the lecturer of academic listening and speaking course. And also I don't forget thanks to our moderators today, Ulfa. Ladies and gentlemen, before we are going to our section, let me introduce myself. My name is Husni and my student number is 202122045. In this occasion, webinar about managing high school students' anxiety in public speaking. Next slide, please. Previous slide. All right, and this is our topics today. The first is defining public speaking. The second is the importance of public speaking for high school students. The third, preparation to be a good speaker. And the last is some way to managing anxiety in public speaking. Next slide, please. Here is Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is an expert in public speaking. One of his best words is live fully while you are here. Experience everything. Take care of yourself and your friends. Have fun. Be crazy. Be weird. Go out and screw up. You are growing to anyway, so you might as well enjoy the process. Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to the first section, defining public speaking. Anyone know what public speaking is? If there is someone know, you can answer in the chat box. Next slide, please. Public speaking consists of two words. The first is public, means a place where one can be seen by many people. Second word is speaking. Speaking is a skill to deliver something through mouth. So I can conclude that public speaking can be made as a skill to deliver something in front of many people. Next slide, please. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, public speaking means the act or process of making speeches in public. And according to Muffanti, public speaking is the oral communication spoken in front of large people that combines the skill of speaking and the art of speaking. Next slide, please. And the second section is the importance of public speaking for high school students. Why public speaking is important for students? The first, public speaking can increase self-confidence. Why public speaking can increase self-confidence? Because in public speaking, we are trained facing a lot of people. And that makes ourselves trained to believe in what we are talking about. The second is cultivating a leadership spirit. A leader must be able to speak as good as possible in front of his members. The detail of the speaking can direct his members successfully. And the last, public speaking can improve critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills can be trained by understanding the material. By understanding the material that will be delivered, we will think more critically again when the audience asking about the materials to be delivered. Next slide, please. The third is preparation to be a good speaker. How we can prepare a good speaker? The first is prepare the material carefully. It can be denied that how would our public speaking capabilities, it will not work properly when we do not preparing the materials well. So we should prepare the material that we deliver as well as possible. The second is practice all the time. Everyone knows that practice makes perfect. With practice, we can anticipate things we don't want during the delivering materials. The third, understand the audience. Understanding the audience will help us when we will interact with them in delivering materials. So a public speaker should be understand the character of their audience. And last, master the material to be delivered. The materials are not just made only, but it must also be mastered. So what we are talking about can be delivered clearly. Next slide, please. And the last section is some way to managing anxiety in public speaking. If in the previous section, we talk about how to prepare for a good speaker in the day before you perform your speaking. But in this session, we will discuss some way to managing anxiety in public speaking, especially before you are going to the stage. The first is take a breath regularly. A rush breath can cause nerves, while if you are already nervous, it will cause loss of concentration. So start your breath as good as possible when you are start to speaking. The second, drink some water. If you're nervous, try to relax your body and then sit down for a minute and drink some water. It will help you to minimize the nervous and you can start speaking. The third, pray before starting to speak. Asking for help to God could be a thing that can be done so you don't feel nervous when we will talk in public. And the last, try to relax your body. Relaxing your body and don't think about a lot of things. Keep focus on what you say. Next slide, please. All right, so I can conclude that public speaking is an oral communication spoken in front of large people that combines the skill of speaking and the art of speaking. Public speaking is important because it can help increase self-confidence, cultivating leadership spirit, improve critical thinking. And then you should prepare several things to do a good public speaking performance. Present the audience and master the material. And last, there are 4 ways to manage anxiety in public speaking, especially for high school students. Early, drink some water, pray before starting to speak, and last is relax your body. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think in the webinar today, if you have a question, you can ask in chat box, or you can email me in the slide. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to the moderator.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What excellent presentation, Rosni. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on the importance of public speaking and how to manage high school students' anxieties in public speaking. Okay, and then we have finally arrived to our last presenter, Kak Andra and Sanjaya. Song the best media to improve your students' listening skills. Hello, Kak Andra. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
For the next 7 minutes, please. Wait for a minute, please.
All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Andra Dhari Sanjaya with NPM 2021-22054. Thank you for the time, moderator, and thank you all for the attending this webinar. Okay, in this session, I will present a material with the title "Song: The Best Medium to Improve Your Listening Skill." All right, I'll start with song. Do you know what song is? Is there anyone here who hasn't heard a song yet? I'm sure you've heard a song. Okay, next slide, please. All right. First, let's start with the understanding of song and listening skills. First, song. Song as a short musical workset to a poetic text with equal importance given to the music and to the words. It may be written for one or several voice and is generally performed with instrument accompaniment. The Encyclopedia of Americana 1998. And for listening skill, according to Rosenberg, listening is a soft skill that allows people to understand the information others convey to them. It is part of the communication skill set that includes speaking skills, also known as a verbal communication and interpersonal skills. So, how do we improve our listening skill by using only song? Here's how. Next slide, please. All right. This is the process of listening occur in 5 stages. They are hearing, understanding, remembering, responding, and evaluating. Okay, next slide. All right. The first step is the receiving or hearing process. Hearing is a perception of sound waves you must hear to listen, but you need not listen to hear. Here, you can start by listening to your favorite song, of course in English. While relaxing, you can play it once or twice. After you start to know the flow of the song, then you can go to the next step, namely understanding or learning. Next slide, please. Okay, this step helps to understand symbols we have seen and heard. We must analyze the meaning of the stimuli we have perceived, start imitating the lyrics in the song without singing or reading the lyrics of the song. Start trying to guess the lyrics spoken by the singer. Don't think about whether the lyrics you catch are wrong or right, because this is a process. The lyric you catch may be a little mixed with your first language, and that's okay. In this step, you can also write it down to make it easier to remember. Okay, next slide. All right. This is an example when in this step. For example, in a certain song, maybe the lyrics you heard turn out to be like this. Darling, I will love you till 17. Maybe my heart could be still full as heart is 23. But the real lyrics are like this. And darling, I will be loving you till we're 70. And baby, my heart could still fall as hard at 23. And this is not a mistake. This is normal. This is what is called a process. If you practice often, your listening skill will improve. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, then the next step is remembering or recalling. Now, try to sing with the lyrics that you have understood earlier while accompanied by the original music. This is quite a long step. Start practicing while listening, depending on your own. Okay, next slide, please. next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. And the next step is responding or answering. Try singing it in front of your friends or colleagues and let them judge it. That way, you will be able to learn and see where you went wrong. In this case, it would also be better if your friend know the same song. Okay, next slide. All right, and the last step is evaluating or judging. You can start with compare with the original lyrics of the song. You can search for the original lyrics on the internet and then compare with the result of the lyrics you hear. From here, you will find out where your error lies, and you will find it easier to evaluate yourself. Okay, next slide. And this is the advantage of learning listening skills through the song. The first is not easy word, and then enjoy because you use your favorite song, and with a variety of music types, you can explore more. Okay, next slide. Like as a reminder that in the practice of listening skills, you will not master it by doing it once or twice. The process to master it will be very long. Therefore, you have to practice it every day. Next slide. All right, that's all from me. Thank you for your attention, and don't forget to keep spirit and keep practicing. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Kak Andra, for sharing your insights on why and how song can be the best media to improve young students' listening skills. Okay, since all of the presenters have already presented the materials, we will begin the Q&A session from now on. As a reminder, you can still submit your questions through the chat box feature in your attendee control panel. Let's see the chat box. The first question is from Amelia Zahra. Thank you for the question, Amelia. Hello, I'm Amelia Zahra from Management Department. I'm sorry, that's the previous questions. Okay, the first question is from Kak Sheila. Thank you, Kak Sheila, for the question. Morning, guys. Remarkable presentation so far. Great way to start. I'm Sheila from Silvan University. I'd like to hear from Alfie's perceptions regarding to this topic. Okay, so this question is for Alfie. Right, Alfie, earlier you mentioned several games which I could say those are categorized as conventional, real life, and physically involved kind of games. And if you look back to the context that you highlighted, which is COVID-19 pandemic, do you think your conventional games which require your physical existence in the room are suitable? I mean, there are a bunch of technology integrated kind of games which likely more suitable to the context and the goal of increasing vocabulary. Thank you. Okay, Alfie, do you get the question?
Yes, I get it. And can I request to answer both questions from Ossie and Shayla at the same time?
Go on, Alfie.
Okay. Well, thank you for Shayla and Ossie. That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked me about that. Because the question is kind of same, I will try to answer it at the same time. Okay. First of all, yes, Ossie, you can actually use video games for learning vocabulary, but it's not really my topic for today. So maybe next time I will explain it to you. Okay. And for Sayla and Ossie, like I said before, because of the COVID-19, we're stuck in our home for too long. I guaranteed you that most of the students already playing enough video games during that time. And even some of them maybe are addicted to playing video games right now. And I know there's a lot of technology integrated kind of games, which likely more suitable to the context and the goal for increasing vocabulary. But my intention is that I choose social games over video games or other technology integrated things because, well, it's fun for the student and it can be used for if someday are going back to real life classroom and when the pandemic ends. And I want to quote unquote cure the student that addicted playing video games or stuck with technology all the time with it. So the student can rest and away for a while from the technology and the video game. I hope I can answer both of the question. Once again, thank you for asking.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Alfie, and for Sheila and Kelsey. If you still need a further explanation, you can contact Alfie through his email address. Since we still have time,
Moderator,
okay,
can I add one or two sentences to Sheila question?
sure. Go on,
Uh,
Fadi.
right. Thank you, Sheila, for the question. It's a nice and great question. And is there any differences between conventional game and technology integrated games? Yes, it is. There a difference physical games and technology integrated games? Yes, it is. And with pandemic, when we talk about pandemic, we need to there is no physical existence of teacher in the class, but with innovation, we can create the conventional games more suitable for online learning. In example, the last man standing game. It can be personalized by the teacher or the innovation from the teacher, such as in conventional game, the last man standing the students who can get a new words, they can sit in the chair. But in the technology integrated games, we can do the at first the students is turn on their camera so that the teacher can choose or by absent number and there are new guess a new word by the teacher. But if they don't if they can't do the guess a new words, they can turn off the camera so that the last student who has the camera on is the winner of the game. Thank you. Back to the madrasa.
Okay, thank you, Kari, for sharing your thoughts on this question. And here we have Kashila. Hello, Kashila. Do you have any questions that you want to asking directly to the presenters?
Well, yes, Ulfa, thank you so much. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, it's very clear, Kashila.
Okay, that's great. Well, actually, I can type it on the chat box, but I think I would like to ask Husni, since he was talking about some kind of public speaking. So I do not want to text, I don't want to write, so I'm gonna speak. Okay, Husni, there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, how you doing, Husni? I hope you're great. Okay, so first of all, I appreciate your explanation, your presentation. That was an interesting topic, by the way, and I do agree at some points in your presentation, especially you said previously about public speaking, increase self confidence, cultivate a leadership, and improve critical thinking. Well, that's great. That's a really good point. But something, and I would like to know your perception and perspectives about how do we integrate other skills to become a reliable public speaking or a competent public speaking in order to achieve those temptation outcomes. Since I think public speaking is not an independent skill, and by that I mean we have to capable in other skills that support public speaking skills, isn't it? So yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
All right. Can I the
Sure.
okay. Speaking is not independent that public speaking can combine with other skills like reading. In my perspective, public speaking, how to increase public speaking? Increasing public speaking can be trained by exercise and understanding the material. And we should see the example in YouTube, that is like Paul Nation, Tony Robbins, or in other experts in public speaking. So we can take example from there. Is my answer satisfying?
Well, there's no right or wrong, so I appreciate your perspective. So thank you, Husni.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Thank you so much, Kak Sheila and Kak Husni, for sharing your thoughts on this topic. And by any chance, is the presenters, do you want to share your thoughts on the question? Seems like no. So let's see. We still have 7 minutes until 11 o'clock. So if the participants still have questions, you can ask the question directly by using the raise hand feature. Okay, if there are no questions anymore, let's see. Kak Sheila, do you have another questions?
Yeah, actually, it is addressed to Chandra. Is there Chandra in here?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, Chandra, how you doing? Hope you're good. Okay, can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Chandra, I really interested in your topic about children and reading strugglingness kind of thing. So previously you said in your presentation that children consider to play rather than do reading activities. So I think that was very general characteristic of children in young age. So as an educator, how do we initiate their sense of interest, their feelings of interest and enthusiasm in reading? We're not talking about how to like increasing or developing or even just, yeah, we just like kind of like introducing them to reading activities. So if we face children with some kind of reading struggles and yeah, so how do we initiate their first move, their first action to overcome that issue? Thank you, Chandra.
Thank you for the question, Kak Sheila. Chandra, do you get the question?
Yes, I can.
Go on, Chandra.
Okay, thank you for answer. uh, as I say before, there are several activities to help children to improve their reading activities. Like example, use word work activities. In word work activities, there are several what is it? Like we can try to use pyramid spelling. I think the activities is fun and simple to get children interestingly. And the second, we can choose rainbow spelling, like we made letters with using markers rainbow, and that can be great and simple activities. Maybe enough for me. Thank you. Back to the moderator.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on the question. Kachandra, there any presenters who want to share their own thoughts on this question? Okay, seems like who wants to share any thoughts on this question. You can contact through Cassandra email address. Now, seems like we are out of time. So Alhamdulillah, the Q&A session has already finished. As a reminder, if you still have questions we didn't get to today, or think of any questions, please contact our presenter's email address. We will post a recording of this webinar on EDSA's YouTube channel in a few days. Before we end this webinar, we'll take a picture first. I will be helped by Kahadi. Kahadi, are you ready to take a picture of us?
All right.
Thank you. For the
So,
participants, please turn on your camera for a moment. The one which will on promise.
all right. Please turn on your camera. I take a picture in 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right. Back to moderator.
Thank you so much, Kahadi. You can turn off your camera if you want to. Thank you to all presenters and participants for attending today's webinar, English for All, Some Ways to Develop. I'm Ulfa Satika. On behalf of our team, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to fill your presence list on the link below in the chat box. Yes, guys. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all.